Welcome to our video about the fascinating world of Pokemon and their placement on the Tree of Life. Today, we'll take a closer look at Raticate and its order, the rodents, one of the largest orders within Mammalia. Rodents are an order of mammals. With about 2,500 to 2,600 species, they account for around 40% of all mammal species, making them by far the most species-rich order within this group. At the same time, they are the group with the most new descriptions within mammals. Between 2000 and 2017, at least 248 species within the order were newly described or newly established. Rodents are almost globally distributed and have colonized a variety of different habitats. Very few rodents are widespread as commensals or pets, yet these shape the image of the entire group. Many species, on the other hand, are barely researched and have a very restricted distribution range. Most rodents are short-legged, quadrupedal, moving on all fours, and relatively small. The most important common feature is the two enlarged, continuously growing incisors in the upper and lower jaws, which are only covered with enamel on the outer side. Depending on habitat and lifestyle, however, the most diverse forms have developed. The size of rodents varies between dwarf forms like the African pygmy mouse, Mus minutoides, and the Eurasian harvest mouse, Micromes minutus, which often weigh less than 5 grams, and the capybara, the largest living rodent, which can reach a head body length of 100 to 130 centimeters and a weight of 50 to 60 kilograms. Other large rodents include beavers, pacaronas, and pacas. However, most rodents are about the size of mice or rats and have head body lengths of about 8 to 30 centimeters. Rodents usually have dense fur composed of wool and guard hairs. Only the tail is almost hairless in some species, and there is only one generally almost hairless species, the naked mole rat. The fur color is mostly kept in inconspicuous, camouflaging colors, often gray or brown, with desert dwellers also being yellowish. However, some tropical squirrels, such as beautiful or giant squirrels, also come in bright colors. Most rodents have a tail, with only a few large or subterranean species having it only rudimentarily developed and not externally visible. In some tree-dwelling species, it is developed into a prehensile tail. In beavers, it has developed into a flattened, hairless steering organ. In many species, the tail can easily break off to facilitate escape from predators. In such cases, it partially regrows. At the tip of the snout, rodents usually have a short, rounded nose. The rhinarium is only rudimentarily developed or completely absent. The oral cavity is divided into two parts by a narrow opening. The front part contains the incisors, and the back part contains the molars. The toothless gap in between allows the lips to retract. Additionally, the furred skin of the face continues behind the incisors, which prevents indigestible foreign objects from entering the oral cavity while gnawing. The upper lip is often split, making the incisors visible even with the mouth closed. The tongue is short and compact, with a blunt tip that never extends beyond the incisors. The taste papillae near the tongue's tip are small and thread-like, partially enlarged and hardened in porcupines. At the base of the tongue, most species have 3 valate papillae. Some species have large, fur-lined cheek pouches that extend to behind the ears and can be averted for cleaning. In hamsters, their openings are in the corners of the mouth, while in pocket rodents, they are located on the outside of the cheeks. The incisors can be used for various purposes, but they are mainly for breaking hard-shelled food. South American fish-eating rats, whose incisors are pointed, use them to kill their prey, and some subterranean groups, like pocket gophers and mole rats, use them for digging. In these species, the lips grow inward, separating the incisors from the oral cavity, preventing particles from entering the mouth while gnawing. The power and sharpness of the incisors are exemplified by beavers, which can fell a tree with a diameter of 12 centimeters in half an hour. And some species are reported to be able to break open tin cans with their teeth. Of the premolars, many families have 1 per quadrant, with only a few squirrels and mole rats having 2. In the mouse-like rodents, however, premolars are never developed. In most species, there are 3 posterior molars per quadrant. A few species of mice have only 2, and the Champmeyer mouse, Meyermes germani, from New Guinea has only one molar per jaw half, a total of only 8 teeth, the fewest of all rodents. The total number of teeth in rodents never exceeds 22, with the exception of the silvery mole rat, Heliophobius argentiocinereus, a type of sand digger that has 28 teeth due to secondary tooth multiplication. Unlike the incisors, the molars in many species have limited growth. However, in some groups, such as the stub-tailed squirrels, pocket gophers, springhares, chinchillas, and guinea pigs, the molars are rootless and continue to grow throughout life. Tooth replacement usually does not occur in the incisors, Monophyodonti, with only some Cavioidea, such as guinea pigs, having milk teeth that are replaced by permanent teeth before birth. As an adaptation to various habitats and the realization of different ecological niches, rodents have developed remarkable diversity in their body structure. Two groups, the flying squirrels and the scaly-tailed squirrels, have independently developed a gliding membrane between their limbs, enabling them to glide between trees. Some rodents have adapted to a subterranean burrowing lifestyle with a stocky, cylindrical body, short limbs, reduced or regressed eyes, and sometimes enlarged digging hands. These include pocket gophers, blind mice and moles from the Spalacidae group, comb rats, and sand diggers. In some species, the hind legs have been lengthened, resulting in a hopping mode of locomotion, such as in kangaroo rats, jerboas, and springhares. The agudas and pampas hares of America developed elongated limbs with hoof-like toes, forming the ecological equivalent of small ungulates and hares. Numerous species have independently adapted to an aquatic lifestyle with a streamlined body, water-repellent fur, and sometimes webbed feet and a rudder tail. Examples include beavers, muskrats, nutrias, South American fish-eating rats, and Australian water rats. To defend against predators, several rodent groups, such as porcupines, tree porcupines, and some spiny rats, have developed spiny fur. Many rodent species, with their stocky bodies, short legs, and short necks, resemble rats or mice, including many mouse-like species, dormice, and other groups. In the Miocene, Ceratogalis was the only horned representative of rodents. The function of the horns is unclear, but it has been speculated that they may have played a role in mate attraction, defense, or as an additional digging tool. The idea that they played a role in mate choice is contradicted by the fact that both males and females had horns. Rodent activity times vary depending on the species and habitat, but most are crepuscular or nocturnal. However, some groups, such as squirrels, are predominantly diurnal. Some inhabitants of colder regions hibernate during winter. Well-known examples from Europe include dormice and marmots, while others, like lemmings, remain active throughout the winter. In contrast, some tropical region inhabitants enter estivation during hot or dry seasons, such as fat mice. In terms of social behavior, rodents exhibit a range of forms, from strictly solitary species that avoid contact with conspecifics outside the mating season, to species that live in pairs, and even species that have developed a complex social system. Particularly notable are the rodents that live in large underground burrows, such as viscachas or prairie dogs. Unique among mammals is the eusocial lifestyle of some sand diggers like the naked mole rat or Damroland mole rat. Similar to some insects, a single female, the queen, is fertile and mates with multiple males, while the other animals act as infertile workers performing necessary tasks to support the group. Rodents are predominantly, but not exclusively, herbivores. Depending on the species, habitat, or season, they consume all parts of plants, grasses, leaves, fruits, seeds, and nuts, but also twigs, bark, roots, and tubers. One of the main reasons for the evolutionary success of rodents is likely their ability to combine herbivory with a small body size. Most other herbivorous mammals are significantly larger. There are numerous purely herbivorous species, but some species are omnivorous and include insects, worms, and other invertebrates, as well as bird eggs and small vertebrates, as part of their diet. These include squirrels, dormice, some mouse-like rodents, and sand diggers. However, there are also a few species that primarily or almost exclusively feed on insects and other small animals. Examples include some genera of New World mice, such as grasshopper mice, Anicomes, named after their main food, burrowing mice, Oxymicterus, or the group of fish-eating rats, Ichthyomyini, which feed on water insects, crustaceans, and fish. Other examples are the African water rat and the Australian water rats, Hydromyini, which primarily consume fish, and representatives of the Diomyini like the Congo forest mouse or spiny mice, which mainly eat insects. The first undoubtedly rodent-related finds date back to the Upper Paleocene, though the group likely originated in the Cretaceous period. Sometimes, the Zalamdolestidae, a group that lived in Asia during the Upper Cretaceous, are mentioned as their Mesozoic precursors. These relatively large Mesozoic mammals had a body shape comparable to elephant shrews and displayed similarities in the structure of their enlarged lower incisors with rodents. Whether they actually represent the ancestors of rodents or gliories, the common taxon of rodents and lagomorphs, is disputed. In the Lower Paleocene, the family Eurymylidae lived in Asia, already exhibiting only 2 enlarged incisors per jaw like modern rodents, though differing in tooth structure details. Today, the Eurymylidae are rather classified as a sister group of rodents and not as their basal representatives. The same applies to the Allogomyidae, which also lived in the Paleocene in Asia and North America. The oldest known representatives of rodents are considered to be the Ascuromyidae, possibly together with the Paramyidae, which were widespread in North America in the late Paleocene and still had a somewhat more primitive dentition with a penultimate premolar and generally low-crowned molars. The split into the 5 suborders was already completed by the end of the Cretaceous. In the Eocene, rodents also spread to Eurasia and Africa, and by the end of this epoch, there was an almost explosive radiation, resulting in the emergence of many modern groups. Among others, squirrels, beavers, scaly-tailed squirrels, mouse-like rodents, cone-fingered rats, and dormice are documented from this period or at the latest from the early Oligocene. A group of rodents, today known as caviomorphs, reached South America in the early Oligocene, about 31 million years ago, presumably drifting on driftwood from Africa across the much narrower Atlantic at the time. South America was, then, as during most of the Cenozoic, isolated from other continents, allowing a unique fauna to develop, comparable to the situation in Australia. There were only a few mammal groups, marsupials, the extinct South American ungulates, and xenarthrans, which allowed the caviomorphs to occupy some ecological niches atypical for rodents and unique to this group. Some grass-eating species essentially represent the ecological equivalent to ungulates, and even giant forms evolved. Still, today, the largest rodent, the capybara, belongs to this group, and extinct forms like Phoberamys even reached the size of hippos. Remarkably, rodents, before the worldwide spread of humans, were the only group of land-based placental mammals to colonize the Australian continent. This migration occurred in several waves, 5 to 10 million years ago. Today, there are a number of endemic genera on this continent, including water rats, Australian rabbit rats, and hopping mice. At a later stage, rats also reached Australia with several representatives. I think I would choose the family Chrysetidae. What do you think, which family fits best? Write it in the comments. The Chrysetidae, chrysetids, are a family of rodents that include voles, hamsters, and New World mice. Based on morphological findings, a relationship between these groups has long been assumed, which is now confirmed by genetic studies. It is a species-rich group with nearly 700 species living in America and Eurasia. That's it for Radicate. In the next episode, we will analyze the relationship between Pidgeot and Fiero, which are both birds. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. See you next time.